This is going to be a talk on sail controls and optimizing your sail shape for the wind conditions. This is really important for your boat speed because we're trying to keep that flow around the sails, and we can't do that if they're shaped improperly. So we have a couple different lines on the boat that will help adjust sail shape. The first is the main halyard, and we're not really going to focus on this one because your sail should always be pulled all the way up. I did notice at practice the other day that a couple of you had your sails down about 6 inches, and so the way we can fix that is have your partner check when you're pulling your mainsail up and make sure it goes all the way to the top of the mast. The next one is the jib halyard, and that one's very adjustable, and so we're going to talk a lot about how we check that and how we control that. Then we have the boom vang, which in my opinion is one of the most important controls. We also have the outhaul that adjusts the bottom of the sail, and that's really helpful in really heavy or really light breeze. And finally, we have the Cunningham. The Cunningham doesn't do that much on FJs, but it's a good part to know. So here's a set of sails, and we're going to look at which areas of the sails the control lines can affect. First, we mentioned the main halyard, and that is going to pull the luff of the sail tight against the mast, right here. Right, and like we said, we don't need to adjust this one, but it does need to be pulled all the way up. So we also have another control that tightens the luff of the sail, and that's called the Cunningham. Like we talked about earlier, the Cunningham isn't a huge player in FJ shape, but it can take the wrinkles out of the luff and give us that smooth sail shape that we want. Next we have the outhaul, which controls the foot of the sail, and it also controls how deep the belly of the sail is. To give an example of this, let's look at a situation where the outhaul is loose for light wind. With a loose outhaul, the belly of the sail, which is right here, is going to expand to give the sail more of a curved profile. So what this is going to look like, looking at the mainsail from the stern, is that the sail shape is going to have a much more dramatic curve. Now we can compare that to a tight outhaul for heavy wind. So as you can see, the draft, or the belly of the sail, is a lot tighter when you pull the outhaul tight compared to when the outhaul is loose. So the reason that we'd want to change the draft in our sail is that draft has a lot to do with the amount of power you're getting. With light wind, we want more power, so we open up that draft, whereas in heavy wind, we're overpowered, and so decreasing that draft actually helps us lose power and stay in control of the boat. Next, we're going to talk about the boom vang, which is my favorite control because it can power up your sail. So the boom vang makes a V with the mast, and then it acts on the leech of your sail, which is this back edge right here. So when you tighten the boom vang, it pulls the boom down, which then tightens the back edge of your sail, which is called the leech. One of the biggest things we can do with the boom vang is control how the top batten is shaped. So as a general rule, we want the top batten to be pointed directly at the stern, and that's really hard to show here, and so that's going to be something that we can demonstrate on the dock at practice. So to help me remember this, and as a sneaky way of telling me that you watched the video, go ahead and remind me to do the top batten boom vang demonstration at practice on Tuesday. All I'll say here about the boom vang is that in light wind it should be cleated so there's no extra slack, and that's to let your sail breathe and keep that draft that we talked about with the outhaul really open. As the wind increases, you're going to have to put more boom vang on, because if you don't, your boom's going to rise and your sail's going to twist, and we don't want twist. These are things I can't show with pen and paper, so don't let me forget the boom vang demo on Tuesday. The final control line we're going to talk about is the jib halyard, which gives you the ability to point your boat, which is really important in racing. So the jib halyard acts on the luff of the sail, which is the front edge right here, and it's also the first part of your sail to meet the wind. So because this is the first part of your boat to come in contact with the wind, it really needs to be tuned correctly so that we don't mess up the flow over the rest of your sails. As a general rule before you leave the dock, light wind, light jib halyard, heavy wind, heavy jib halyard. But as soon as you get out in the water, it's time for fine tuning. To do this, you're going to sail upwind at a close hauled course with your sails all the way in and your boat flat. Then the crew's going to reach down to the leeward shroud and try to wiggle it. What we're looking for is a shroud that's not too loose and not too tight, but just right. A shroud that's too loose would be flopping back and forth, and if it was too tight, you would be able to strum it like a guitar string. So we're looking for a happy medium between those two where the shroud is taut. A couple special cases would be super heavy wind, where you're just going to crank the jib halyard as tight as you can. Or in really big waves, you're going to leave it looser than normal for the wind conditions, because you're going to be bouncing through the waves, and the looser jib tension will help keep the flow in your sails and keep your boat moving. If you checked and your jib tension is incorrect, you're going to turn downwind to fix it. When you go downwind, the wind's going to push your mainsail and your mast forward, which takes the tension off your jib and makes it easier to adjust. I've drawn a mast and a jib in normal position in pink, and then here in yellow is your mast and your jib when you're going downwind. Shifting your mast forward will take the pressure off your jib halyard so you can adjust it. So once you turn downwind, the crew's going to let the jib sheets go and uncleat the jib halyard. And if your tension was too tight, go ahead and slowly let it off. It's not going to take much, even an inch will dramatically change the tension. After it's cleated off, go upwind again and check, just keep rechecking until it's correctly tuned. If your tension's too loose, the crew can put their foot on the mast and push it forward while pulling back on the jib halyard, and this is something that we'll show at practice too. And just a couple of final notes. Skippers, when you guys are roll tacking, I've been seeing a lot of you roll off the main sheet bundle, which is more comfortable than rolling off the hiking strap, but it actually changes your sail shape during the tack. So when you roll on the main sheet, you're acting like the boom fang by pulling the boom down, which is tightening the leech of your sail. Like we talked about earlier, in light breeze, we want to keep the leech of the sail open by keeping the boom fang loose, so rolling on the main sheet contradicts that. The time that roll tacks are going to be the most effective is when the wind's light, so rolling off the main sheet and in essence trimming your sails for heavy wind by tightening the leech is just going to slow you down. So that's the reason we don't roll off the main sheet. Instead, try rolling off the hiking strap or have the crew roll harder off the jib sheet. Along the same lines for crews, when we're going wing on wing, downwind, and light breeze, make sure you're not holding on to the boom fang here, because the same thing happens as with rolling off the main sheet. When you put pressure on the boom fang, it pulls the boom down and tightens the leech of the sail, which is really bad for light wind. And that is the end of sail controls. Ask if you have any questions. We'll do a demonstration on Tuesday, and don't forget that your sweatshirt order forms are due then too. See you soon.